So, before I came to Northampton, my memory of you was in 2001 making that film, which is it's always funny to look back on it. I'm tempted to dig it out, but it's probably not the right time.
Somewhere, yeah. The naked election, if I remember.
Yeah.
I wasn't naked, that was too much. Let's just say somebody was.
Yeah. So, and now I was interested to find out that you were running as a Green Party candidate. Well, I was really pleased actually, because you were at that time under a government that I didn't entirely approve of, and yet I felt like you were someone who was really principled. I mean, how do you feel looking back on that time now? I mean, as an MP under that government with a somewhat tarnished legacy.
I mean, I guess, Kevin, that if we could all have our time again, but my politics haven't really changed from the day I joined the Labour Party, and I think by the time I got into Parliament, I'd already realised that the Labour Party was passing me by, that it was starting to stand for different things to those that I joined up to. I've always been red, and I guess I've always been green, and I think it was only through bad experience, through having to vote against my own government, having to vote against everything that I'd fought for, that I realised that perhaps the Labour Party didn't have the answer, and that what they wanted above all else wasn't to change society, but to kind of go along with it. And for reasons of power, I think they gave up principle, and without which I don't think you can have a clean political system. And so I had a period of being independent, and then thankfully I looked at the Greens, and I've always been very Green friendly, but I just realised that they were in essence the Labour Party that I'd joined all those years ago. And I think also, and I think this is worth telling, apologies for people listening because it's a little bit long-winded, but I think it's worth a story worth repeating. I was looking at an interview with a guy called Professor Manuel Castells, who's a Spanish professor, and great bloke. I mean, he predicted the internet, he predicted social media, but more than that, he got some of the best thinkers, some of the best left thinkers from around the world together and started looking at what was happening post-2008 crash, in a world where everybody's less secure, our housing's not secure, our employment's not secure, we feel less secure, safe even in terms of the world and the environment we live in. And as a consequence, people are looking to live their lives in a different way, because if you're not sure how long you're going to be in work and you're not sure about the roof over your head, then you need to be a little bit more self-sustainable. And what Professor Manuel Castells found was what I agreed with, was that all of us are engaging more and more in the green economy. All of us are becoming more self-reliant, and all of us are changing our values so that they're more attuned to the family, the locality, the community, rather than that Thatcherism of self and dog eat dog and me against my neighbour. And I realised that if I was going to be happy, and I realised that if we was going to live in a society where the majority of the population was going to be happy, we all had to first of all do with less stuff.
Thank you.
Because we all just accumulate stuff, we consume like crazy. I've often said, and forgive me for repeating, that as a country we consume in a year 3 times as much as we produce, and that's a dreadful thing, because if every country did that, we'd need 3 planets to sustain ourselves. So I realised that things that the traditional politicians talk about, which is growth at all costs, which is employment at all costs, which are about just keep producing stuff, keep consuming, keep using the resources of the planet, they're not sustainable, and we ought to be rallying against them.
Yeah, definitely.
And that for me is, the Green Party, it's not just a political party, It's about saying, I'm taking control of my own life. I'm taking control. I'm going to live for myself and my family and my community. I'm going to work only to live rather than living to work, as we've got trapped in. Sorry, I said that's long-winded, but I think it explains the philosophy of a lot of people who are joining the Greens, because we don't just want to change society a little bit. We do want a peaceful revolution, and we want to smash our political system as it currently exists apart and have one that's more attuned to this and the next century rather than the last and the one before that.
Yeah, and obviously the Green Party, I mean, there's loads of different issues. I mean, and we're going to talk about a lot of them in the clips and post them online. But I mean, for me, my interest in the Green Party has been mostly environmental, I think, because I just worry so much about it. You know, it's like, it seems like I'm pessimistic about it. I feel like, you know, people aren't going to do enough in time.
Yeah, I mean, you know, everything starts with the planet. You know, I just said that this obsession we've got with stuff, this obsession we've got with consumption, with waste, it all starts with us raping the Earth's resources for quite dubious benefit. You know, you look at the amount of food waste in this country, you look at the fact that, you know, we've still got people going to food banks at one end of the scale. But at the other end, we've got supermarkets and restaurants and chain restaurants that are throwing food away on a daily basis because either it's been on the shelf for 2 minutes more than it should have in KFC or something, or you know. And you realise that, you know, we're just producing this stuff to throw it away. You know, we produce things such as washing machines, which are now built to fail because we don't want anything to last too long, because people wouldn't buy another one.
Oh yeah, it's like that with loads of things, isn't it? Cars, gadgets, everything.
And coming back to your point, the central point about the planet we live on and the environment, if we live in a world that's obsessed with forever changing and renewing all of its products, and that's obsessed with having the most modern technology and the most modern bits of kit, then that means you're going to continually use those resources, and unless you're pretty clever in their reuse, you're going to continue to take those away from communities and from societies and from countries and from people who would actually need them themselves in their own countries to bring them up to a level. You know, we are still, in the UK, the 6th richest economy on this planet, and yet we've got people going to food banks. There's something quite wrong there.
It's crazy, it's absolutely crazy. I mean, what saddens me is that I feel like there is the technology and there is the will to avert the environmental problems, but the people in power just aren't going to let it happen for whatever reason. Well,
you've hit the nail on the head. I mean, you know, to embrace true environmental sustainability, you've got to take those hard decisions about saying that, you know, just maybe we do all have to work a little less. We do have to change the order of priorities that we set ourselves in this country. You know, the Green Party, we accept that over the next 2, 3, 5 years there will have to be some growth because the economy is flat. But you know, employment isn't always about producing that stuff. You know, employment can be about assisting the community. And I think, you know, one of the most depressing things for me over the past 5, 10 years is that we've allowed a Tory government, with the help and support of the Liberal Democrats, to produce a situation where we've denigrated local government, we've denigrated public services, and the Tories have used the economical crisis for political purposes to produce small government where we strip down local government service to their absolute base. So the things that are important to me, such as youth services, the things that are important to me, such as making sure those that need care get care, the things that are important to all of us in society I call it the bread and circuses. You know, we all need the bread, we all need our bins collected, we all need those base services, but we also need the circus. We also need services that enrich and enhance our lives.
Yeah.
They've all been cut.
Yeah, they have. Yeah.
And, you know, what sort of society do we really want to live in? And I'd like to see more of the people of this country gainfully employed in helping their fellow brother and sister, their fellow man, woman, in enriching their lives, not just producing stuff and picking up the bins. And so I think, you know, part of it with the Green Party, and we're saying we want to build, you know, hundreds of thousands continually more rented homes. We're saying that because we want to put people to work for the public good, not just for the profit margins of corporations who shove their profits, you know, offshore for tax reasons. And it does take it's a giant leap, but it's one that we've got to take if we're going to avoid a second crash.
I think that's the point. It is a big leap, and that leap is just a lot for a lot of people to get their heads around. And it's difficult to know what it.
I could tell you Karl Marx saw this coming, you know, quite a long time ago.
Yeah.
But yes, capitalism is in crisis, and yes, it will fall at some point. Those that are clever amongst us have to make sure that we have changed society in such a way as we can manage that transition. If not, people are going to get hurt in the process. None of us wants that. So, you know, people look at the left and say, oh, dangerous lefties want to talk about the end days of capitalism. You know, I turn around to those that worry and say, well, would you rather we just crash society like that and people got hurt in as a consequence and in the rush? Or will you work with us to transform society so that we rely less on capital and more on humanity and more on a system that's more sustainable for the future? And, you know, there needs to be a shift to the left, and even some of those on the right can now see that.
Yeah, and it makes me so angry when you hear people talk about fracking and stuff. We'll probably do a clip on that, but it's you know, there's a movement now of, you know, keep it in the ground, and you know, the idea that, you know, we're still trying to find ways of getting every last little bit of fossil fuels out the ground for this short-term profit. You know, it's insane.
You know, and what do we know? What do we know is that we're producing too much carbon. We know that we are affecting the climate. We know, you know, the vast majority, 98% of all scientists and scientific organisations say climate change is real, and it says that, you know, we are polluting our atmosphere to the point of no return, and we've got to turn the clock back. So what do? They come up with more ways of getting more oil, gas out of the earth to burn, instead of investing that money in renewables. And, you know, there are countries in the EU and across the globe who are starting now to get to the point of 50, 60, 70% renewable, and we're still stuck way down, you know, below the 20%. It's not acceptable.
So I mean, what do you think the reason is? It's just simply because corporations really call the shots, and they're the ones that are just in it to make profit in the short term.
Yeah, I mean, you know, society and the world is arranged around the needs of the 1%. You know, everybody talks about the 99% and the 1%, and we all know that the rich are getting richer, and the gap between rich and poor is broadening and widening.
0.1%.
0.1%. But you see, those with the power won't let it go easily, and they will use those with the power, their friends in high society and within the establishment, to protect that. So everything that we're told, you know, in terms of our media, our newspapers, our television, it's all based on the protection of that minority who have got things pretty good actually for themselves. But I don't know, I still couldn't sleep if I was them, because, you know, what are they saying? I'm alright, Jack, for the period of my lifetime I can have an easy life, and I can, you know, enjoy my life on my yacht and have all these riches and resources available to me. But stuff my grandchildren because they can go to hell because I don't give a toss about what's going to happen to them in 50 years' time.
Yeah, I don't get it. I couldn't
No,
put myself
no.
in their shoes, to be honest.
No.
Either they're deluded or, as you say, it's just about, you know, what they can get out of it in the short term.
Personal greed, avarice.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. There you go. It's horrible. But
Well, that was quite a good intro. Should we take a break and say
yeah,
hello to
yeah.
your
We'll
friend?
say hello to our friend.
Hi, you're
Hi.
right.
Yeah.
Hello,
You?
you're right.
You want me to turn this off?